Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And if this is your first time, welcome. My name is Max Haddad, and today I'm going to talk about why I love apples. I know. Is he out of video ideas? Why? It's a prison channel, it's a vlog channel, it's a sobriety, self improvement, happiness, fighting mental illness, heading towards mental health channel. Why are we talking about apples, two of the world's smallest apples? Apples that, to be honest, mean nothing to me emotionally. Really average. The red one, mealy, out of the bag, fresh from the grocery store. Not good. Because I've always loved apples. That's why we're going to talk about it. And because there's good reason. When I was much younger, 12, maybe even 11, 13, my grandpa, Bandy, and grandma, Bandy, lived with us. They're from Columbus, Ohio. As they aged and could no longer adequately take care of themselves, or at least doing so was near impossible. My grandma had pretty severe dementia. My grandpa struggled to get around due to some severe arthritis. It just didn't make sense for them to be in Columbus taking care of themselves. It was too hard and it was not fair. They had lived a very difficult life already. Lots of poverty. My mom growing up, living with them, having one shirt with a bunch of holes in it. She's going to beat me up later for telling the story wrong. And the point wasn't they were bad parents that didn't care. They were good parents that cared very much. They just had no money. My grandpa and grandma got married when they were 17, grandpa 18, grandma loved each other. It might have even been 16 and 17 their whole lives. There was a very brief split somewhere in there for, I think, a year where they were still married, just separated due to fighting or something. But they stayed married for 60 plus years and died married. Joined the military. Both of them were in the Navy. And then my grandpa went and worked on the railroad. Very tough life. So, end of their life, yeah, we're going to take care of them. There was maybe like a 2-week period or something where my grandpa was at a nursing home, and it was eye-opening. I'm sure there's wonderful nursing homes. Sorry, it's early morning. I can't talk. Wonderful nursing homes somewhere. This was not one of them. He hated it. He didn't feel human anymore, and therefore we hated it. So they came and lived with us. It was not uncommon that my grandma would wake up at 3 in the morning and start wandering around the suburban neighborhood we lived in, trying to catch a bus to go see Dan, my grandpa, who was either in the hospital for something or maybe even sleeping in the bed next to her. She was losing her mind, literally. She was not who she had been. My older siblings knew her when she was more vital, more herself. I don't have a lot of memory of that. I basically only remember my grandma June being, she wasn't mean, but she was like nastier than necessary, but kind of in a funny way. Like, she wasn't awful. Like, it wasn't abuse or anything like that. It was like when you're hoping for her to congratulate you for beating her in a game of cards, she would be like coy about it, like like smug and not happy that she'd gotten beaten. Or Thanksgiving dinner, I was a little kid again playing with like this lit candle, like the candle wax. I don't know if you guys ever dunked your finger in the candle wax, and it burns a little bit, but then it's cool because it like solidifies on the tip of your finger. And Max, didn't you say this video was about apples? It is, I swear. And so I'm playing with the candle and she hits my hand into it, and then like it hurts. But more so, I'm like startled because my grandma slapped my hand, and my mom comes in, and I'm like, she's like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Well, grandma," and then she just goes, "He did it. He did it. Max did it." So it wasn't like evil. She was just not herself. She was not. I don't want to say a full person anymore, but she was losing her memory. She wasn't all there. I don't know enough about Alzheimer's as I should. I don't even know if it was Alzheimer's, but there was dementia, because I believe there's more to Alzheimer's than that. Okay, so I didn't talk to my grandpa after my grandma passed away very much about her because it was so saddening to him. I slept in the bedroom next to his, and I would hear him awake at night praying that he would go wherever grandma was when he died. And he was never a religious person, ever, but praying for the first time in his life, probably, and asking that if she's in hell, take me to hell. If she's in heaven, take me to heaven. If she's in Idaho, well, let's get in a car and go, that sort of thing. Saying her name over and over again, oh, June. I can't recreate it because it would be doing him an injustice and it'll make me really, really, really upset. But very, very missed his wife, the love of his life. So I didn't bring it up much, or at all. We knew that he was upset. Now, one thing that's important to note about my grandpa is he was proud in a good way, not in a Seven Deadly Sins proud way, but in a woke up early every morning, showered, and came down the stairs looking good, despite his wife having passed away, despite having severe arthritis and being in a lot of pain. Was always complimented on his posture, which maybe he got from the Navy, whatever, but he was a tall guy like me. He was probably 6'1", 6'2". I get my stature, my body type from him, big, muscular, that sort of thing. I'm not complimenting myself. I'm just saying he had presence and took care of himself his whole life. Combed his hair, got dressed nicely, came downstairs, that sort of thing. He refused to quit, despite the love of his life having died and never getting to see her again. He never quit. The only time I saw him accept defeat was when he was in hospice, definitely about to pass away, and he said, "Parting is such sweet sorrow that I should say goodbye until tomorrow." Starts quoting Shakespeare. That's it. Closes his eyes and passes away peacefully soon after. So my grandpa did everything with dignity. Now, old age took some of that dignity from him. That's the awful part of aging. One of the awful things about it. There are good things about it too, but that's some of the not good stuff. And that was always sad to see some of that dignity be stolen from him by old age. But 95 to 98% of the time, he was upright and handling life. One of the only times I talked to my grandpa about my grandma, we didn't talk about her job in the war. Like I said, she was an active military member. Didn't talk about what she was like as a wife. Didn't talk about her hobbies or anything like that. Well, I guess sort of we did, because what we talked about was she could bake a better pie than anyone in the world. My mom still insists on it. Every time we eat pie, she'll say, "You've never had a pie as good as your grandma's. The crust was perfect." All that. She was known for her apple pie. At my elementary school, which was maybe a 5-minute drive, if that, from my house growing up, there was an apple tree, which later was cut down because it attracted bees, which is like when I was a kid, sometimes you got stung by bees. And I know some kids are allergic and they had to be more careful about bees, but you didn't just go cutting down apple trees. But that's what we do now. I'm not resentful. So my grandpa tells me, about my grandma. Now, she would bake the best apple pie in the world, and that I never got to try it. So, since then, I have always been infatuated with apples, because he and I would go pick apples from that tree. They've always been my favorite fruit. Despite at some point in my 20s when I eat them, I get nauseous. Despite that happening, not like, I'm sick, I must have some type of mild allergy to some of the pesticides, or I don't know. I still eat them. They're still my favorite fruit. And it's because that was the connection that my grandpa shared with me about my grandma. And I don't, like I said, I don't know a lot about my grandma. I know that I unfortunately didn't get to know my dad's parents as well as I would have liked. I was just very young when they passed away. And really the only grandparent I truly got to know, and of course, if I could go back in time, I would get to know him even better, but was my Grandpa Bandy, my mom's dad. So having just this little bit of information about my grandma is special to me. The type of love that my grandpa had for his wife, June, is the type of love that I think we all aspire to, at least in classical Western culture where there's, two partners. I'm not saying man and woman. My grandpa was very LGBTQ friendly, he was hanging out with black people before it was allowed, whatever, not to make it like that, but typical Western culture where there's two people and they're married for life, and marriage is a lifelong decision. That doesn't have to be everybody's choice. That's okay. I'm just saying in that dichotomy, they found and then continued to perpetuate and strengthen that love that we all find so attractive. I said we all find, that a lot of us find so attractive, that we find so valuable. Being married is not a necessary part of being happy. Being in love with someone is not a necessary part of happy. There's some indicators that it is helpful to have a romantic partner, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys, you need to be out there searching for your one, or that's not what this is about. My point is, you couldn't write a better poem about love than the poem that my grandpa wrote just by loving June. And that's always the relationship that I've wanted with somebody. A serious relationship, even as a young teen when I shouldn't have been thinking that. And kids will fall in love as deeply as they can, and then years later be like, Jesus, I can't believe I thought I was going to get married to my first girlfriend or whatever. And that's what I did. But since I can remember, since I started dating, I have wanted that type of love. It's probably gotten me into trouble. If my grandpa was alive, maybe I wouldn't be thanking him. Maybe I would be saying, you should have given me a more realistic perspective of what finding love is, because it typically doesn't happen at 17. But because I wish to emulate that, and because I put on a pedestal that type of love, I can't help but treasure the one strong memory that my grandpa shared with me about my grandma. So apples are juicy. Apples are crunchy. Apples are sweet and tangy. They are delicious. But that's not the full story for me. So was this video about apples? I don't even know. Maybe I tricked you. Maybe it was about my grandma. But I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this very personal story about my grandpa and Grandma Bandy. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.